It's important to think about the nature of trauma. And trauma is not some unpleasant thing that happens to people. Unpleasant things happen all the time, and we're actually quite well equipped to deal with unpleasant things. Trauma is something horrendous, something that makes you stare with horror. Trauma is about horror, something that you stare in the face and it's too much. You cannot possibly imagine what you can do, and you think your life is over. An experience like that is an experience you don't want to remember. And so at the core of trauma is this need to push it away and to try not to remember it. Trauma treatment is about making it safe for people to remember, making it safe for people to stare reality in the face. Having post-traumatic stress reactions is about being unable to face the truth. And so at the end, exposure treatment is important, but not blasting people with the memory of the trauma and confronting them with it, because that is traumatizing for them again. Now, we need to make it safe for people to observe what happened back then without them becoming freaked out and overwhelmed by remembering. So our job as clinicians to make it safe for people to remember what happened to them back then, and for them to come to the conclusion, yes, this happened to me, it was terrible, but it happened a long time ago. And that's the core skill of becoming a trauma therapist, is the capacity to help people to safely remember. The first modality that taught me that it's possible to help people to feel safe was EMDR. And for me, EMDR is an indispensable modality of treatment. If I could not do EMDR, I don't think I could be a good trauma therapist anymore. That may not be universally true. I believe if you're a very good body-oriented therapist, as Peter Levine or Pat Ogden or some other people teach, you can probably process trauma as well through those modalities as you might do it for EMDR. I also suspect that if you are a very good hypnosis expert, that you might be able to help people to come to a very safe place where they can actually observe what happened. But for me, EMDR has always been a very important part. And so with EMDR, you can allow people to go to a place where they become quite agitated. An example I have in my book, but I have so many examples. Now let me give you an example from my recent practice. A guy came to see me from a local school here in Boston, where we have so many schools, who was crushed in a car accident. He was riding his bike and a car came from a side road, drove over him, hit him as he was riding his bike, and dragged him along, and the driver of the car was unaware that somebody was being dragged underneath her car. And in the process of being dragged, he lost most of a leg. A terrible thing. He walks into my office in crutches, looking terribly distraught. He's an athlete, and I feel like, oh my God, there's probably nothing I can do for this man because it's so horrible. But, you know, I've done this EMDR research that shows that 80% of people with that condition get better in between 3 and 8 sessions. And so I have this data somewhere in the back of my mind, even though as a person, I can't imagine how this guy can ever overcome the horrors of that memory of what happened to him and basically the loss of his leg. And so I say, somewhat despairing in a way myself, let's do some EMDR. And we start doing EMDR, and I'll talk more about EMDR in the course itself. And as we do the EMDR, he at some point starts smiling. And I say, what do you get now? He says, you know, I was so strong. I was being dragged underneath that car, but I could hold on to the chassis of the car as I was dragged along. And if I'd let go, the wheels of this car would have driven over me, but look what a strong guy I am. And he recalled how powerful he was. So he himself came up with this image of power. Didn't come from me. His own brain was able to generate it. And that's what you see all the time in these good treatments, is that you liberate the healing power of people's own minds and own brains. And so I go on with the EMDR, and again, a little while later, he smiles again, and has sort of joy in his face, and he says, you know, I'll never play sports again because this leg is basically gone for me. But you know, that leg saved my life. Because if that leg hadn't sort of held on, my pelvis would have dragged along the floor and my pelvis would have been destroyed and I would be dead by now. So I'm really very grateful for that leg, for sacrificing itself so I could be alive. You know, that stuff we cannot make up for other people. And so EMDR was able to liberate these creative forces in people's minds. And this is what we see in other treatments also, is that people come up with their own solutions. And all that we do is we're technically proficient enough to help people to find those solutions. So think about the impact that EMDR and helping people to just let their memories dissipate and become memories of something bad in the past, what that would do for your practice.